In 2011, a man named Masao Maruyama, the former CEO of renowned animation studio Madhouse, did not feel like he had enough creative freedom at the studio anymore, becoming a slave to the investors. He cared more about the creativity and passion of making anime, so he decided to leave the company and form the Maruyama Animation Produced Project Association, more commonly referred to as Studio MAPPA. As it started, MAPPA didn't go around grabbing revolutionary high-budget titles. Instead, Maruyama was crafting a small-scale hub of passion projects and creativity. However, in 2017, Maruyama left MAPPA, handing it off to Manabu Otsuka, one of the early members of the studio, who decided to shift the gear of Studio MAPPA completely. If you've been keeping up with anime over the past 5 years or so, the chances are that if you know only one animation studio, it's Studio MAPPA. The studio is constantly coming out with smash hits like Jujutsu Kaisen Chainsaw Man and Hell's Paradise, while also garnering a reputation for being a collector of fallen series, picking up the final season of Attack on Titan and the second season of Vinland Saga from other studios. Their animation quality is generally very high, and all of their recent series have garnered the studio massive profits. There is no doubt that Otsuka turned MAPPA into an absolute powerhouse of a studio, with great animation, an amazing ability to grab high-tier projects, and the ability to rapidly produce these pieces of art for public consumption at a rate not seen by a single other animation studio. Unfortunately, each of these pieces of the powerhouse is an issue. While MAPPA has become synonymous with creating these remarkable shows, it has also become synonymous with poor working conditions, overworked animators, and underpaid staff. Based on statements put out by MAPPA animators, the quality bar that needs to be reached when making a MAPPA anime becomes nearly impossible to reach when given the amount of time that these animators are given. They have to work insane hours, staying up night after night animating, often not even going home from the office. Due to the added workload, MAPPA hires more employees, but then they don't give them the necessary training due to time constraints, leaving the experienced animators to pick up the pieces and try to fix any mistakes the new employees make. So in trying to save time by not training new animators, the animators end up wasting way more time than what's saved. Furthermore, the rate of pay at MAPPA is 25% of the average rate of pay per cut for animators, and they aren't paid with a steady salary. The majority of this issue started around the time Jujutsu Kaisen came out. With that show being the studio's ultimate cash cow, MAPPA gained the resources and prestige to take on many more projects, and while it technically had the resources to handle the projects, they're constantly stretching themselves too thin, sometimes making multiple anime in a season, while some well-renowned studios don't even do one every year. Learning about MAPPA's working conditions made me sad to see the reality of how animation in Japan really is, and MAPPA's work environment seems to be as far from the gold standard as you can get, despite their immense success financially. However, no matter how sad this makes me, I wouldn't have made a video on it until I saw a translation of an interview with Manabu Otsuka, saying that he aims to surpass studios like Kyoto Animations and Ufotable in less than 20 years by producing a lot while maintaining high quality content. Logically, this makes sense, but it's also the reason why Studio MAPPA will never become the best animation studio. First things first, quality-wise, while MAPPA may be considerably high, their level of polish does not touch Ufotable. Ufotable was one of the major pioneers of the merge between 3D and 2D animation, which they show off to their fullest effects in shows like Demon Slayer and Fate. MAPPA is also particularly creative in their use of CGI, but their blend with 2D animation isn't quite as polished, largely because of the differences between how the companies use it. MAPPA CGI is noticeably seen on moving characters such as the Titans in Attack on Titan's final season, Denji in Chainsaw Man, and other examples. The way Ufotable uses CGI more often than not is in the backdrops of their scenes, which gives them the ability to do these insane camera movements that we constantly see in the action scenes of Demon Slayer. The main thing that sets Ufotable apart from MAPPA in terms of animation is just that you never notice Ufotable's use of CGI despite it being a quintessential part of their animation style, and they use CGI in a way that it always looks good. The main issue of CGI is that it makes drawings often look rigid, especially when moving, but what Ufotable does for its CGI is a technique called rotoscoping, which basically takes a real-world reference for the animation and creates fluid movements based on that. The most clear example of rotoscoping used outside of Ufotable anime would be the Fujiwara song ending of Kaguya-sama Love is War. The reason why Ufotable CGI team and 2D animation team is so in sync is actually quite simple. They don't outsource their work, which is particularly uncommon for animation studios, only being done with a select few, namely Kyoto Animations and Ufotable themselves. Anime like Demon Slayer and Fate are all produced by consistent Ufotable staff who are able to communicate with each other constantly and portray their artistic visions, and in doing so they're able to make the most polished animation to ever grace anime. However, in my opinion, there's far more than technique that is important to an animation studio, and Ufotable is not the best. Of all the anime I've watched, none have consistently tugged at my heartstrings more than Kyoto Animations. From Violet Evergarden to Clannad Afterstory, Kyoto Animations has proven mastery over multiple different forms of animation, and has further proven that there are multiple ways for a show to be beautiful. The types of shows that they've made recently are quite different from the ones that they've made before, but something that has always been common between their shows is the magic that you feel watching them. It's as if the animator is reaching out to you with every cut of animation and touching your soul. They can take any narrative, from a story of a guy overcoming depression to just a group of girls sipping on tea and playing music, and make both of them the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. It's funny, before I watched most of the shows I've watched from KyoAni, I didn't actually know they were from them, but midway through the show, I somehow always managed to find out on my own. Each second of animation is always given equal care. The emotions that they're able to make you feel are unfathomable for just another anime, and each time you watch one of their shows, you never regret it. On the day I'm writing this script, I started watching an anime from KyoAni called Hyoka, and seeing that it was a show from 2012, I didn't expect too much from the animation. I expected it to be pleasant because that's something you could always depend on KyoAni for, but watching certain cuts of the show gave me literal goosebumps. It was absolutely beautiful. I'd argue that it was ahead of its time by quite a bit, but thinking about it, the skills it took to create something like that existed in other studios back then. It's the way the animators at this particular studio were able to put those skills together to create something truly beautiful. I've wondered for a while what created this effect within the works of Kyoto Animations, and I think that MAPPA situation has finally given me the answer. The work that MAPPA produces animation-wise is incredible. They're able to coordinate perfectly smooth movements and choreograph amazing fight scenes that may very well define a new generation of action anime. But despite all that, it feels lifeless. Technically, the only anime that Kyoto Animations has that can compete with the works MAPPA presents us with constantly is Violet Evergarden, which is an absolute animation masterclass, and yet there's something in a show like K-On! Or Nichijou that I'd take over any of Studio MAPPA's works any day, and that thing is passion. Masaru Maruyama left Studio Madhouse and created MAPPA to become a hub for passion and creativity, yet it grew into the opposite. If MAPPA stayed on the path that Maruyama started it on, maybe it could have had a chance at surpassing a studio like Kyoto Animations. But as it is right now, they stand no chance. The highest number of anime Kyoto Animations has ever done in a year is 3 versus MAPPA's peak of 6. Yes, making a work for Kyoto Animations does take hard work, but each individual animator in that studio has the capacity to make their creative vision a reality. They aren't rushed and they're in a good environment where they can work well. As far as the workplace, Kyoto Animations is the gold standard for animation studios. Unlike most animation studios that pay per cut of animation, Kyoto Animations gives a decent salary, along with paying for any overtime that the animators put in. They also give perks like maternity leave. These are normal things that normal jobs give, but in the animation industry, it's actually quite a lot. Most animation studios are a lot more like MAPPA than they are like KyoAni, but the fact that KyoAni is the way it is leads them to being able to produce something beautiful. Each animator has the ability to toss themselves into their work not out of necessity because of a deadline, but out of passion for the project, and that can be felt in every cut of animation. Even if some of their anime aren't the most technically demanding projects, they still produce absolutely beautiful products that, in my opinion, far exceed those that put more technical effort into their works. You can feel the happiness of the animators behind the screen when watching a KyoAni anime, which is why it's a studio that will always remain timeless.
We're at an animation studio in Kyoto.
Home to Kyoto Animation.
Told from an arson attack at an animation studio in Japan.
Kyoto Animation.
At least 33 people were killed.
Flames tearing through Kyoto Animation Studio.
4.5 years ago, the biggest tragedy that ever hit the anime industry happened, and if you cared about anime at all back then, you probably know about it. On July 19th, 2019, Shinji Aoba burnt down Kyoto Animation Studio 1, killing 36 of the 70 employees present in the building at the time. A studio that touched so many hearts and was responsible for so many smiles, laughs, and tears, burnt down, having the employees responsible for those incredible emotions injured and killed. My heart still goes out to the families of the victims of this fire. After this disaster, fans and businesses collected tens of millions of dollars to support the employees and studio, but the idea of the studio actually recovering from a calamity like this was very wishful thinking. I don't know about the general public because in 2019 I wasn't that deep into the anime community, but I didn't think that Kyoto Animations would recover. It was only after that, during the pandemic, that I started watching their works, feeling the emotions that the animators drew out for us, and I felt more from those drawings than I ever thought possible. The thought that the people responsible for creating such joy may not even be alive anymore genuinely hurt. And back then, the company's fate was still hanging in the balance. When I learned that Kyoto Animation started hiring again, I was genuinely so happy. I knew it was a studio that I could always count on putting a smile on my face, and I felt happy that it had the opportunity to recover despite all it had to go through. MAPPA never has and probably never will have this effect on me, and I genuinely think that the only reason the company survived the fire was because it was Kyoto Animations. If something like this happened to MAPPA, they may have gotten a similar amount of financial support, but at the end of the day, it was the will of the surviving animators who decided to stay with Kyoto Animations, as well as the team who loves the environment that it was capable of rising from the ashes. MAPPA wouldn't be able to do something like that. Studio MAPPA has the technical talent to be the best animation studio of all time, but until the upper management fixes how the animators are treated and paid, they are never going to even come close to touching the top. I think that Otsuka's dream of surpassing Kyoto Animations is only possible if he's willing to sacrifice a few projects and give the animators the time they really need to go all out. There is not a single artist in the world who doesn't want to be passionate about what they're doing, and when they're able to execute on their desires and creativity, the end product will shine even further. If Studio MAPPA implemented changes to give the animators more breathing room as well as better pay for higher quality of life, they'd see that each of their projects would improve leaps and bounds past their already high quality, and their reputation would improve also. While they may not be able to produce the same number of projects, if they want to surpass studios like KyoAni and Ufotable, they've got to learn from them. Quality is greater than quantity. On the other hand, if they don't implement these changes, it could lead to large detriments for Studio MAPPA. The team of veteran animators at MAPPA holds quite a bit of talent, but as worker satisfaction decreases, more and more of them will start seeking work from different animation studios, and with their talent, they're going to get it. Furthermore, their neglect when it comes to training new animators will lead to not having the resources to create high quality works anymore. Even if a number of veteran animators at MAPPA stay to clean up the new animators' mistakes, the studio's luck just won't hold. As of right now, they're being stretched way too thin, and I think that can be seen in the drop in quality in certain episodes of Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 and Hell's Paradise. They won't be able to keep up with the demand of taking on all of these projects all the time, even if they have separate teams working on separate shows. If it stays on its current route, MAPPA will eventually be forced to realize that this method of reaching the top isn't sustainable, and learning that sooner rather than later will save money, energy, and most importantly, the sanity of the animators. Basically, MAPPA is at a crossroads right now. They're well aware of the technical talents their team possesses, but they overestimate the amount that's possible for them to do. For Otsuka's dream of surpassing Kyoto Animations to come true, MAPPA's gotta get its head out of maximizing the number of projects, and instead let the animators focus on the quality of each individual one. Furthermore, MAPPA needs to invest in better working conditions and fair pay to improve their worker satisfaction, because that'll prove indispensable when it comes to improving the quality of their work. Me making this video won't change anything in the anime industry, but what I can confidently say is that no matter what happens in the future, unless MAPPA makes these changes, they will never be the best animation studio.